Wrestling with Stereotypes. I'm Kel Dansby, here with my co-host Andreas Hale, and today we are so lucky to be joined by the extremely talented Pan-African World Diaspora Champion for now, Trish Adora. Listen, as long as I don't got to take a Lariat Tubman, we can make this happen. No, that belt is incredible. You are even more spectacular. Thank you for taking time out to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. So listen, we've got to start with this because Black women in pro wrestling, whereas I'll preface it with this. Black men in pro wrestling, the characters have always been kind of limited, right? But I feel like even more so with Black women because there aren't so many. So when it comes to you and your quote unquote gimmick, which is, I feel like is more you than an actual gimmick, how liberating is it to be yourself as a pro wrestler and represent for a community that's been underserved for so many years in this business?
Oh, that's really nice of you to put it that way. Thank you. No, it feels really cool. That's the beauty of the independence that you get to decide yourself, and this is what I'm choosing to do when the choice is left up to me. So, and now that I kind of am receiving positive feedback for, just my presence in wrestling overall, it makes me a little less likely to give away that independence. That's how much I'm enjoying, everything. So I feel good about, my place in wrestling. So
can I follow with this? Was there ever any concern with being who you were and how it was going to be received by promoters? Because look, let's be honest, like Blackness is cool now, right? It's like acceptable. Whereas several years ago, when you came in and wore your Blackness without any trauma attached to it, without any people would push back and it was, there's a little concern about, oh, well, do you have to be that way? Like Black pride is offensive to some people. So was there any concern about bookers and promoters pushing back on who you were?
Well, there's pre-Black Panther and post-Black Panther. So, before then, it's kind of like, oh, I don't understand what Afro-punk means, or I don't understand why you're wearing that, or, now I need to explain, or maybe they want me to be more aggressive, or maybe they want me to fit into that type of, that angry brawler powerhouse. That's not me, and I felt really uncomfortable doing that. I was even told that I could never be a believable baby face, and I never forgot that. And I just always kind of kept that in my back pocket. And I just never understood why I couldn't. Well, I knew why they thought I couldn't. And it was pretty clear why they thought I couldn't. So it just feels really good now to know that I can. So
they must have never saw that smile. Can't be a believable baby face.
I know.
It's crazy. And we'll dive into your earlier years and everything and kind of go through the timeline. But when was it where you were like, you know what, I'm comfortable being me and these promotions are just going to have to take it? Like, this is who I am. Work with me or don't work with me.
Yeah. It was when I left Florida. So mid to late 2018, I came back home to kind of try to iron stuff out, figure myself out. And it worked because I was kind of just attached back to home base in a sense. It felt really good to just be around my family again, to be around my friends. And I was worried about okay, there's no training, and then I was like, oh wait, there's the Ring of Honor dojo. And it just so happened they were having a seminar and I went to the seminar and it just so happened to work out to where I was invited back. So I was like, there it is, So all those problems that I kind of had seemed to solve themselves. So it made sense to just go back home. I felt so much more comfortable in who I was. Nobody ever really challenged me or told me no, don't do it this way or don't do it that way. And honestly, a lot of my credibility as a performer is lended to, this championship, you know, being able to participate in that tournament to crown the champion, that lended to my credibility big time. So had I been back in Florida, I'd have not been, none of this would have happened. I'd have never come back home and, who knows, I'd still be an angry brawler or something like that, I'm not angry, I'm not upset with anybody, but it's like, I guess that's what I gotta be, whatever. But, I was able to do things the way I liked, and that's worth so much. That's worth everything to me. So,
isn't it interesting how like being being a minority in this business, being yourself is so difficult. Whereas, you look at Caucasian wrestlers and they can be anybody. They can be brawlers. They can try the lucha style. They can be any kind of character. But for us, it's like to be ourselves, it takes so much. And it shouldn't have to feel liberated. Like we should come in liberated. So kind of talk about that for a minute. Like hopefully it changes over the years, but it feels like we're still trying to knock down these walls.
Yeah, I'm not brave, I'm just, in a sense, I'm just, a wrestler, and me doing these things, it's not out of some act of bravery. This is just who I am. And I'm only going to be at the places that are okay with who I am already. I don't want to have to go anywhere and convince anybody that this is a good idea for me to do this. That just feels like something I don't even want to do that. Just even saying that, I'm like, ugh, what I look like explaining myself as I'm grown. I'm explaining myself to other adults, about something that they've already decided they don't want to understand anyway. So, nah, I'm not going to try to change anybody's mind or do anything like that. That's tiring work. I'll just be over here, like with my tribe, doing like cool shit,
No, that makes sense. You mentioned going back home. So let's talk about home. When I read up on you before this, I did a little bit of homework, and I feel like we've had this podcast for about 4 months now. There's a groundswell of people who grew up or came from the DMV area, where it just seems like, to a point, that it is okay to be yourself. We talked to Rich Swann, who made a point to say that he was like, you know what? I wasn't that different down here. I had my tribe. I had my friends. A lot of people were eclectic. A lot of people were like me. Blackness wasn't one thing in the DMV. What was it like for you growing up in that area? And how does that really like transition to who you are now and in pro wrestling, being comfortable?
Yeah, so I've always kind of just been comfortable in my own neighborhood with Blackness, with, protesting, with being involved in a lot of ways that may seem like a little bit on the more radical side, nowadays. So that's kind of just threaded into who I am. So this and the whole, being in the military and the whole being a wrestler and presenting myself the way that I do. And it's just always been natural to me. It's never really felt, it wasn't supposed to be any other way. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the best part, really.
Did you lose some of that then going to Florida? Because you mentioned you had to go back home and you found that. Is that something you lost, like kind of straying away?
Yeah, I did. I was really just I was at a funny point in my life anyway, just trying to figure out a lot of stuff. So I just wasn't on the same page internally anyway. So just a lot of things ended up suffering because of that. So I don't know. I just couldn't really find my footing. So
I got to hit you with the brown sugar. When did you first fall in love with pro wrestling?
Ooh, very early. Very, very early. Like the invasion type early. You know what I mean? I feel like some of those childhood memories of like WCW and like the Nitro girls, I couldn't really understand what was going on. I had five brothers, so they kind of just they knew better than me. They were cheering, booing, and just yelling, making all kind. I didn't understand what was going on, why everybody was upset, and what anything was. But I did like notice like a lot of the women wrestlers, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. I felt somewhat represented, I guess. And then I saw Jacqueline, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, she's different. She's like me. That was the first time I saw somebody like me be beautiful and taken seriously like on this. I had never, you know, I thought that was so cool and so interesting. Everything she did was no matter what she was involved in, there was always that point to let you know she was tough. You know, on commentary, they made a point to always say that. You know, I don't think she was ever on the screen and you didn't say how tough she was and, you know, how strong she was and how much, you know, like the guy, so to speak, that she was, you know. So I always dug that about her and I was like, man, that's cool. So
You okay, so you have Jacqueline, you see someone who looks like you. What then makes you a fan going forward? Because a lot of us kind of like, we liked pro wrestling as a kid and growing up in the Attitude Era or the WCW era. Then some people fell out of it and then they end up coming back. Like, what made you a fan throughout life and what led to you saying, you know what, I want to become a pro wrestler?
that's an interesting question, right? Because like everybody kind of has that drop off period somewhat. I had, oh man, that drop off period was like a really long time. Like there's some pieces of wrestling that I just kind of, you know, when you weren't watching, you just don't know about. And now you got to like go back and reassess. And I'm just like, oof, I can't even tell you all the time like y'all gonna judge, but it's a fair chunk. So it wasn't really until joining the army and meeting Johnny that it was kind of one of those things where they would give out tickets sometimes to some of the events at the Capital One Arena. They changed the name of this place every 2 years. I don't know what the name is now. It's it's something here, but so they were having some events like wrestling shows, like house shows, and they had extra tickets they were giving to military. And it was like, who wants some extra tickets? And me and him both raised our hand. And that's when I saw him and I was like, oh, okay. And that's how, you know, it's like, okay, you like wrestling. And so we ended up like chilling. There was a couple of us and we were just talking about wrestling all over again. It was very much like, oh, when I was a kid, I thought this is kind of just the adult reintroduction. And it felt like really cool. It didn't feel like whack or anything like that. It didn't feel like something, I don't know, to be. I think there was like a certain level of shame with being a wrestling fan for like a certain period of time. That's kind of, I think it's kind of inching away now. Now it's kind of, mm-hmm. You know, not
it's becoming cool again. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully I can make it even cooler now.
Yeah. So what did your parents think about this? I mean, you go to the military and then it's like, hey, Ma, Dad, think I'm gonna get body slammed and, you know, do this wrestling thing for a living.
Yeah, so my mom was she got on board a little bit later on. I think she was just kind of trying to make sure I wasn't leaving something like the military to do something like wrestling and, you know, not be able to make it work. And, you know, I've expressed that I'm not, I have no interest in, you know, rejoining or anything like that. I'm going to stick to wrestling. So she's really just kind of hoping I mean what I say, you know? So that was kind of her thing as a mom. So I get it now and I appreciate it, but you know, it was kind of a hard sell for a little bit, especially when I was down in Florida on my own, trying to figure it out. Oof. Every month I needed her help with something. It was pretty brutal. She, yeah, she bailed me out a lot. I mean, not literally, no, but not literally.
But you know what? It's like, it's like for like, it's like, I hate to compare it to rapping, right? But when you want to be a rapper, there's no real clear path, right? It's like you tell your
Right.
parents,
Yeah.
like, I want to rap for a living. And they're like, all right, sure. But there's no real clear path. When you want to be a pro wrestler, it's like you tell your parents, and your parents can't conceptualize what the hell does that mean? Because the only thing they can think of is WWE. And then you're like, well, I'm
Right.
not doing that. You know what I'm saying? But how do you sustain and how do you survive? Talk about your survival, because you said your mom had to bail you out a few times, but how do you balance these two worlds? Because there is no clear path. There is no, like, you graduate from college, you become a pro wrestler. It doesn't work like that.
Mm. Y'all got to understand. I feel like if I could be, I feel like I just started making good money wrestling in the past, like this year, you know, like in the past few months. It's had to have a violent shove in that direction because before the pandemic, everything was coming along pretty good. I was working a lot, my rate was okay, but I had spent a lot of that on, I don't know, disorganization cost a lot of money, and in wrestling when you're trying to like figure stuff out and you just don't have the luxury of time on your side ever usually, so there's just a lot of deadlines that you're working with a lot of times. So you end up having to pay upfront or pay extra, I feel like once you start to pay for training, you're on your way to like trying to pay yourself back. I feel like I'm just starting to pay all of that back. The money I spent on training, training is expensive. Gear is expensive. Transportation is expensive. In Florida, it was so hard to get to shows because the shows would be like, all right, the show's 3 hours away. I didn't have a car. So now it's like, all right, you got to find who to ride with. Now you got to chip in, for gas. And now you got to whole motor for to chip in for the car ride. They can eat and get the tolls on the way there. And then you got to set aside some merch if you even have merch in the first place. I got to the point where I was just going to CVS because they charge like $4 per 8x10. And so I was mailing those off, just trying to like make money that way. And then selling them at the shows, making money that way, selling them for like $15, just trying to like, gain something, like come up a little bit, And even like with merch, it was kind of like a little cyclical. I wasn't really making anything back. That was just to get my face on a shirt out there in a sense. That was kind of the payment overall, which is fine. Nothing's wrong with that, but it's just a part of the process that I didn't understand until it was happening. I was like, oh, so I'm not making money off of merch yet. You know what I mean? Not until you really get on a website and you're starting to like move numbers. Like now I'm on What a Maneuver, and I'm so thankful for that. And now you're starting to move numbers, and now you're starting to make money. I have a IWTV code Afropunk, for 5 days free, and I make money off of that every month. You have certain codes for certain things, so it just all depends. There's a lot of ways you can make money in wrestling aside from just when you're paid for your booking as is, Then there's the when to charge more, when your name is getting out there more, who to reach out to, when to be more flexible with what you're asking, when to not be more flexible. That happens sometimes, and it's up to the person individually to kind of make sense of it themselves. I can talk about this all day. I'm sorry, but no. But seriously, this is so, I might give a seminar on this because I'm just looking to save people time and money because I was out there stuck so many times. I was out in the UK stuck. I was out in Japan like stuck, y'all. I was down way bad. Y'all don't even know. It was brutal. I was sitting there. I was like, yo, I can get out of this place, right? I can get out of Japan, right? I had no money. It was pretty rough. And there's so many things that like that part of wrestling that they don't teach you in training, that stuff you learn on the road, that maybe if you kind of just had a group together or something like that you either be able to take that on together or you just wouldn't be alone in some of that stuff. A lot of times I was just by myself trying to figure stuff out. And I was like, what? And you can imagine nobody's, rushing to help me in no foreign country, nowhere. So I'm sitting over there really trying to figure it out. So it's just, uh, so basically, all I'm saying is, it got to the point for me personally, I had to make a decision like, okay, I got a job specifically for wrestling. So on the weekends, I would work at one of my jobs. I was bartending and I was doing makeup. So I'd be at one of my jobs during the weekend and another during the week. So that way, when I wasn't having a booking, I'd be able to work at some point and then just get the next week off. Like I had a whole system going. So that way I could make sure that, all my wrestling loops, whenever I, did like my little loop around, make sure they were comfortable, and I couldn't count on, I mean, if I wanted the promotion or if I want the promotion, if I wanted the booking, I couldn't count on the promoter at that point to fully make sure it was comfortable for me. And that's just what it was. That was just me being honest. So I had to fill in that. So I had to get the job. It was just, it was just something that needed to be done. And once I did that, I started to like, with more intention, prioritize wrestling. But then I got busy. And so with the pandemic, everything's down. I lost both my jobs. And then I lost like all my bookings. And this was like a month after I won the belt. I was super pissed. I was really bummed out. I was like, well, shoot, I just had all this great perspective. I was feeling good. I was working. I had a system going. Everything was nice and comfy and cushy. And I was on track to, and then everything just stopped. And that really bummed me out. I was like, well, shoot. All right. Since there's no bookings, I guess I'll figure out how to get my social media game popping. I'll get that situated. Maybe I'll get more intentional about how I post so I can grow, more organically. And so being at home basically let me focus on things that wasn't getting focused on. And honestly, funny enough, I'm kind of realizing this as I'm sitting here. Working on my social media has paid in more dividends than the part where I was just focusing on getting the bookings and not focusing on social media. So as I sit here, I'm just kind of figuring that. So
it all happens for a reason.
Yeah. But don't let me keep talking about that. No.
But I want you to keep talking about this. So we'll touch on it a little more. What got you through those times? Because everyone, it doesn't matter what career you want. Like if you want a career, not a job, if you want a career and you're chasing your dreams, you're going to have moments like that. Like we talk, me and Andreas on our other podcast, we talk about this stuff all the time. Like, I mean, I've been dead broke, sleep in my car for a month and a half broke. Like I went and got a WIC card and sent it to my kid's mom to be like, yo, don't put me on child support. Just take this government money and just hold this. Like you got to grind. You got to do stuff. You got to move stuff around when it's really bad. But I tell people all the time, I never stopped writing articles. We never stopped doing this show. Like we never stopped podcasting no matter what happened. And it's kind of like that, the end goal, right? It kept me going. I knew the end goal of where I wanted to go. What kept you going during those times where so many other people would quit? A lot of talented people quit. What made you?
That is so true. That is so true. I told myself oh my gosh. I remember this. I think about this time all the time. I got into the UK. I had just gotten there and I had this huge bag and I have my luggage and I'm like, all right, here we go. And I start walking and 3 of my wheels broke and I had to be there for a month. And I was mostly traveling on foot and there are cobblestones everywhere. So, and I was walking like a lot I was walking a lot. So I knew the first couple of days, like once that happened, I just gotten there. I knew once that happened, I was like, okay, we're going to strap in and everything's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And then like the next day, I realized that an American Express prepaid card is about as useful as having pesos. So there's no way I could have access to my own money. So I was like, all right, so now I'm just operating off what I'm making for shows, which funny enough, I had to take a cut on because they're helping me with my visa. One promotion was helping me with my visa. So they took the price of that out of my pay, which is great. That's fine for me. But yeah, I didn't really plan for that. So now I'm kind of in a situation where I'm like, oh, I wasn't getting as much as I thought. And so now you're kind of like, okay, now we kind of got to get a piece of paper and figure our things out. And I started just kind of writing down everything that was going on, like every little like silly thing. And I was like, yo, this is going in a book. That's what got me through. I was like, this is going in a book because there's no way. It got to the point where like I could only eat at places that used Apple Pay. So that meant like these like 7-Eleven type places, you know? And so I would go there and I would get the sandwich and the chips and the drink combo for like $4. And that's what I would be eating 2 or 3 times a day. It was the only thing that I had access to and could eat until I got my cash from my shows. Or if I moved any of the little bit of merch that I bought maybe like 3 or 4 shirts because I didn't want to bring too much stuff that I intended to sell. So it was just like, whoo. Then trying to find a place to print 8x10s because you didn't think of that. So it's like, here we go. I was like, look, write it down. This is going to be a crazy memoir. The UK chapter is going to be a crazy memoir.
Man, you know what? Like, listen, you said you could talk about this, but I think this is very interesting because as fans of pro wrestling, you never really know how pro wrestlers live or how they get to where they get to. And I think this is perfect because there's public perception, right? You have this title and people think, oh, she's got it made, right? But nobody knows the journey to get there, right? They have no idea what you've gone through to get there. And I ask that because I'm very curious. Everybody needs help in some way, shape, or form. Like you try to navigate a lot of this yourself. But when you first started in this business, do you remember, who taught, especially being a Black woman in this business, because not a lot of people that look like you, right, that are just going to jump out and throw their hand out to help you. But where did it come? Like, who was there to tell you, hey, for bookings, you should start charging this much? How did you figure this part out?
Well, coming from the Dudley School, there was a very old school rules, new school tools kind of mindset. So there's always kind of into the culture rest not going to get me initially. You know what I'm saying? There's this whole you got to suffer for your art, starving art kind of thing. But I think it's kind of bogus, honestly. It doesn't feel good when you're in it. But I mean, if that's what you think is going to make you a stronger performer overall, then okay. But a lot of times we lose a lot of people in that, and it doesn't always have to be that way. So I think that's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, it took a long time for me to get $50. It was $5, it was $10, it was $15 for a while. When the whole thing was women wrestlers make so much more than men. I was like, really? That's weird. I make
hold on one
less
second.
than everybody here. You know what I mean?
Trish, hold on one second. I think you may have froze. Dre, are you still going?
Yeah, I'm here. You can see me. Yeah, I think Trish, your picture froze.
I just want to make sure Trish isn't permanent froze. Hold on.
I'm here.
I can hear you perfectly, but like you're frozen.
Oh, okay.
Your video's like frozen in space.
Uh-oh.
Can you see us still?
Yeah, y'all are moving around normal. He got up. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Yeah, you just.
I see myself in my own screen moving normally. So.
All right, hold on. Let me make sure it's.
And I think my internet connection is pretty good. So.
This might be Kel's fault.
Uh-oh. I mean, it could be me. I don't know. Let me
make sure it's not me. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I see you again, and you're moving. Throw a left arm up for me.
Left arm.
All right.
Boom.
Okay. It took me a
But
half second. I was like, this is my left. Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure. 1 second. Because
Okay.
I'm trying to fix yours and then not mess up Andreas at the same time. Because his is clear. So let's see. All right. Oh, there it is. Cool. You're clear. Everything's good. We can take it from where we were.
Okay.
Dre, ask your question again.
You want me to ask it again? Okay,
Yes.
cool. I'm trying to remember my damn question.
Say I don't.
Yeah. All right.
Who helped you? It was
yes, the magic editing. Okay,
yes.
Here we go. So, being an independent wrestler, a lot of people don't necessarily understand the journey that it takes to get there, or what it means. Like, you have the title, and people think she's got it made. She's perfectly fine, but they don't know about your journey. And especially being a Black woman in this business, like, who helped you? Because you don't know immediately, like, how much do I charge for a booking, or where do I go, or who do I talk to? So kind of talk about who helped you get to understand this business and your place in it.
Honestly, as far as real understanding, it wasn't until like I moved back to DC that I sort of started to understand the grind and what needed to be done. You know, in Florida, I was in the beginning of my career, so I didn't know what I was supposed to accept as a part of the game, or what was like somebody taking advantage of me, or what was, I mean, now I can look back and see, it's one way and not the other most times. But I don't know. It's just, I wasn't sure of the help that I needed, because I thought that, oh, it's just supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to, just give all this money to the business before I get anything back for about 2 years straight, So the morale was pretty low overall. But I did feel like, John Cruz was one of the trainers there. He was pretty helpful overall. Once I got back to DC, I was able to like link up with people who were also kind of on my journey as well, and not like, because he was a trainer, so it was a little different. There was very like, okay, well, this person makes boots, and message that person for this and have that for that. But it's a little different when it's like you're the person that's going through it too, So being back home is really when I was able to like, all right, let's get a carload and let's go to these shows, or, let's get a job to make sure that these wrestling loops are as comfortable as possible. Because if we want to make them work, we have to make them work. And if the promoter can't meet us all the way, I mean, we just have to fill in the blanks. That's just what it is. Or you won't make it to the show or something, you know what I mean? Or the plans will fall through. So it's like, that's up to you to, and I think it's funny. I don't know if wrestlers admit this part or understand this part. I feel like I've spoken to a few about this, and it's kind of like this disconnect. I was like, yeah, there's a part of the slack that we have to make up, or else things aren't comfortable. That's just period, So I'm always comfort first. So I'm not going. I'm telling you, I can't go if it's not, going to be ironed out and be comfortable. So, and it took a while to get to that. And it took like me kind of offering the help that I wish that somebody gave me, and just, I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like nobody helped me. I hope I'm not making it seem like that.
No.
Lots of people were nice. Lots of people helped me. Lots of people, were very kind and did me favors in a lot of ways. I don't want to,
No, but I mean, honestly, like now there's a difference, it seems like. So now, like you said, you have a different group of people around you. It seems as though there's more support, and, you tried to spearhead that, but also it's because of the group and the people you're surrounding yourself with. Who are some of these people now that you really had to lean on, and you guys lean on each other to make stuff work? And how did you kind of find that tribe within pro wrestling?
You know, uh, it's been hard for me to just find a group of people that I vibe with. Um, just because I think of wrestling a little bit differently than a lot of people that I've talked to sometimes about wrestling. Maybe a little too intensely, probably. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not coming off as too intense about wrestling, but I'm just trying to be more intentional about what I'm putting my time into, and if I feel like someone else thinks like that, I'm like, okay, cool, you're cool, Um, Suge D and Darius Lockhart are two of my really good friends. We bounce ideas off each other all the time. It's like we're three sides somewhat to the same coin. I feel like it's like Malcolm, Martin, and Harriet. It's like we're all trying to do the same thing. It's just we're going about it in different ways, and we're casting our own little nets and carving our own little ways. And I think that's really cool. And I think that it wasn't until I knew that I could lean on them that I felt truly comfortable now, especially as a Black woman. Sometimes it's a little hard to find people, especially in this white male dominated business. So I'm happy to, have Black people I can, lean on.
This is just a really straightforward question. What does it mean to be a Black woman in this business in 2021?
Well, look, the tide is slowly turning. So it's cool to kind of be in the thick of it as it's happening, to main event a WrestleMania, that's something that has just happened. So that's such a historic moment, to be featured in PWI prominently. All the the accolades and things like that. It feels really cool. I'm like, wow, they doing all of this for a Black lady. Look at that. Look at that. No, but see, I told y'all they'll do it. No, I'm kidding. You just had to hit them over the head real quick. No, but
No, so like you said, the tides are kind of turning, right? So we're seeing changes, but you're part of these changes. You're one of the people, especially on the independent scene, that it seems like a lot of people gravitate towards, and you stand out in the best of ways. So when you see this happening, you see you getting busier, you're getting booked more places, you're getting matches at the top of the card. You're not a curtain jerk. You're headlining these cards. How does that make you feel to know, what? People are now going to be influenced by me because you're becoming a prominent star.
Oh, thanks. That's really nice that you say that.
I mean, listen, the stats don't lie.
Thank you. No, it's cool. I'm happy to be able to have higher profile matches. I mean, honestly, that's what I prayed for. That's what I've been hoping for this whole time. These are the kinds of ambitions and so much more. I've gotten so much more ambitious, as my confidence grows. So it's only going to get crazier and crazier, I'm happy to be moving the needle. I'm happy to be making a change. You say I'm a part of that change. I'm happy to be a part of it. I want to change the way you view women in the business, change the way that you view Black women in this business. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to do that kind of work,
Got to ask you, you had that brief stint in NXT and you kind of talked about being in Florida. How did that come about? And can you talk candidly of what that experience was like? Because I don't know if it was intimidating. I don't know if you felt like you fit in. Kind of give some insight on that time you spent there.
Well, it happened so early in my career, honestly, that you kind of don't really understand what you have when it's kind of that early. You're just there, in your nice little outfit, hanging out, eating some food, watching some wrestling, just staying relatively chill, trying to stand out in good ways and not bad ways, and just stay out of the way for the most part. That's kind of that's the plan, so to speak. So if I can go there, and I ended up going there about 3 or 4 times, and I had gotten the match, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is like a really cool thing that I'm doing. And Kyrie was just extremely kind and very complimentary as well. So that was very nice of her. A lot of times you don't have to be, and a lot of times people aren't expecting it, which is kind of the sad part. But she was just very kind. Everybody there was pretty chill. I wasn't really, I don't know. I'd be, honestly, I just stand in these rooms and there'll be whole things happening around me. And I'm just like, hey, look, I'm off to the side. I don't know, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like I don't really process or attract that kind of energy at all. So it was always pretty chill on my end. So
do you think if you had the same opportunity now, it would go different? Do you think like you're more prepared now? Obviously, you have more experience. Do you feel like the next time you're in one of those rooms or with that opportunity, do you think you'd kind of do something different?
Don't hesitate is what would be done differently. I would never want to leave that room and go, shoot, mm-hmm. there was something else on the table. I never want to do that. So should I ever be in any room that is going to be giving me any opportunity or highlight me in any way, that there's going to be no half steps, So I owe it to myself for there to be no half steps. They already don't want to give it to me. They're already gritting their teeth as they slide it to me, whatever they give me. No, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How it goes sometimes, how the attitude goes. But in any case, I'm just wanting to make sure I can knock it out of the park. So no questions asked. I don't want there to be anybody that doubts anything that I'm doing. Especially at that level too, especially with mixed gender wrestling. So at that level, I don't want them to look at me as, anything other than a competitor. So.
Gotcha. I want to stick on this topic of blackness real quick because we have Darius Lockhart out here. We had him on the show, an amazing individual. And when I think about blackness in pro wrestling, we go back to like the Nation of Domination, for instance, and the Nation were heels when Black Pride was a heel trait, even though they weren't heels to me. They were portrayed in the manner that they were to be booed. But one thing that we never really had was blackness in a Black woman who exuded blackness in pro wrestling and Black Pride. And that's you. And we see this with the Pan-African title. Listen, I'm not saying that every Black woman needs to be that way, but you are embodying something that we have not necessarily seen. And it's inspirational for a lot of people to see that Black Pride is a babyface trait. When I say these things to you and you kind of reflect on the steps that you've taken in your career, is this what you've wanted? Is this what you've wanted, the energy that you've wanted to put out there? Because when we talk about people who make history and we talk about role models and we talk about heroes and you say things like, I wasn't brave. I don't think our heroes were necessarily brave, but they did what they had to do because they believed in themselves and that's what they wanted to do. So is this all satisfying to you that your blackness is inspirational and we're talking to you about who you are because it separates you from so many other people in this business?
Yes. Yes. Honestly, there's wrestling and then there's blackness, and sometimes it's like we want those things to just work and just gel. Every once in a while there's like some missteps or it feels mishandled or the relationship between those two are just not right for whatever reason, right? Maybe there's too much in real life going on to where this feels insensitive in wrestling, or maybe, just whatever it is. I think outside of that, it's just sorry. Sorry, that was my alarm. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. But yeah, so I think to where are we at? My apologies.
Oh no, we're talking about blackness in pro wrestling, and you were talking about the missteps between
yes.
the two. There you go.
Yes. Sorry. That happens sometimes. I just chat a lot. But sometimes that relationship gets mishandled. So it's important that I try to make and not even on purpose. I don't want to intentionally like spoon feed or just, I don't want it to feel that way. It's just within who I am. And to make that digestible and to make that not be scary to the white man in the suit who wants to slide me a piece of paper. You know what I mean? That's the person who I don't want to be scared of me. Because if he's already scared of me, he won't understand. So later when they have to write for me, they don't understand. They're not me. There's nobody around that looks like me, not even that has to write for me. You know what I mean? So I'm already signing up to be mishandled, in a sense. So it's just like that relationship in wrestling where you're just kind of who you are is kind of always going to be a part of what you're negotiating or and it's just like, that's such a tiring feeling. And I'm hoping that I can present that in a way that is not scary. It's like, I want to put my fist up and nobody's like, oh my God, I feel so challenged by that. Or, I'm going to boo. I'm upset that she's putting her fist up. That makes me uncomfortable, no matter what's going on in the real world. There's candy in the medicine, with me. So I try to always do that. And it's like, before you know it, a black girl's a baby face, believably, right?
You mentioned that, and then another, I don't want to call it a hurdle, but something else that you're on the forefront of, and you and a lot of other women actually on the independent scene, is mixed gender wrestling, like you had mentioned.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've seen you take guys' heads off with the Larry and Tubman. Some of your favorite matches of mine are mixed gender matches. Do you feel that this is a trend that's going to continue and kind of become, I don't want to say mainstream, but more accepted? Because on the indies, we're seeing it a lot now. It's fun. There's some great matches. You defend that title against any and all challengers of any race, gender, anything. What do you think where do you think that goes? Do you think it becomes mainstream? Do we see this in bigger promotions? Or do you think it's kind of like an indie thing right now that they don't want to touch?
Well, that is the hard work of someone who wants to start to begin to put that on to a mainstream platform. Whoever wants to take on that somewhat difficult task of being able to tell that story believably to a mainstream audience that is going to be able to digest it and understand what's happening in a nuanced way, like with context, I don't want to say for a smarter wrestling fan. I don't really want to say that, but you know what I'm saying, for someone who's going to be watching it and is going to process what's happening a little bit differently than somebody that's like, oh, boo, we hit a girl. It's like, that's not what we're doing here. You know what I mean? So I believe that maybe companies would want to take on that task someday. Maybe it looks believable enough on the indies to work in small doses, mainstream. Who knows, For me, I just enjoy the options. I like being able to have like a nice big pool to choose from for opponents. I think that sharpens me as a competitor. I think that, doing this as a Black woman, technical wrestling as a Black woman, just doing all of this, it's very groundbreaking, which is very strange to say, you know what I mean? So I think that these are all just, pretty straight-laced, chill things, but they are groundbreaking and brave. So I will continue to do these groundbreaking and brave tasks.
I got to ask you, what was your 2020 like? Because not only did we have a pandemic hit, but for Black people, it was a really rough year with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake. You run down the list, and it's we have to live with this. It's not just wrestling anymore; it's our lives. And for you, somebody who exudes Blackness, this is not only are you being challenged with not being able to work, but we're talking about our livelihoods at the same time. And a lot of people don't really understand how to process that. And in this answer, I want you to talk about how you dealt with your wrestling peers who were trying to figure out how to deal with you while this was all going on.
Well, that's kind of a question, right? It's hard to see. I think, especially with everybody being home and just having this wave of stuff happening day after day, just kind of sitting at home waiting to be radicalized in a sense, it was really tough. I don't know. It was very strange because there's this pressure too to say certain things and to be a certain way and then there's another pressure to not say anything, you know what I mean? So there's like a lot going on. Everybody deals with that. A lot of my peers dealt with that differently. Just the water's a little too murky on that to tell. For me personally, it's just been really rough seeing all this stuff happening. It makes me stand even more firm, and I smile even harder, I think someone is expecting aggression and they can't get it from me, it can't happen that way. I'm trying to meet a lot of things with grace, but be very firm still. So I'm hoping that is a good, maybe living example. Not even like I'm trying to be an example to others, but just like an example of just, I don't know, a way to figure it out. Cause I've just been, I can't quite figure it out myself, honestly. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, have been feeling that way because, we're trying to process our own emotions while also going into environments where other people are looking to us to process and justify theirs. And there's a lot of rooms like that. Like, you may go into a locker room and you're one of two Black people and people are looking at you and you're like, yo, what if I don't want to say anything right now? So it's one of those things, like that burden is on a lot of us. So It's, grace. Grace is the key word there, right? Handling it with grace and that $1 million smile. Now that we're wrapping up the show and kind of coming towards the end, let's have a little fun with this. You mentioned a lot of names. Darius Lockhart was just on the episode not too long ago. Put you on the spot. If you could wrestle 3 people, regardless of promotion, anywhere, right now,
okay,
who would you wrestle? Who are the 3 that you're like, I need matches with them?
That's crazy, because the first person I'm thinking is Jazz, but that's already going to happen. So I'm, like that's the cool part. Shoot, I just ran it back with Tasha Steelz. I work with Jordan Blade as well. I do want to wrestle Janae Kai. That's hopefully going to happen very soon. I'm hoping for that for sure. Maybe even singles against Willow, because I'm already wrestling Edith Surreal. I was going to say Edith, but maybe a singles, Willow Nightingale. That'll be a good time for sure. I definitely want to get in the ring with Speedball. That's one of those, the internet is totally put me on the spot with that. Low key, high key. And I was just like, what? And then Speedball kind of rambled and I was like, yo, that'd be dope. We could run something. That dude's awesome. I just wrestled Wheeler too. So
see, you've been wrestling like some of quote unquote dream matches that people want to see you have. It's like you've been wrestling.
And then Tony Deppen already.
Yeah, defending that title everywhere.
Matt Makowski.
Matt Makowski. All right, I got to ask you.
Moriarty.
Lee Moriarty.
You versus Lee.
That'd be pretty incredible.
Yeah, I need to see that one.
I'm curious because we're talking about all these present wrestlers, but if we go in the past, what would a match with Trish and Jacqueline look like?
Shoot. That's gonna be, we're gonna be getting it in. We're gonna be laying it in. That's what that's gonna be. Similar to me and Jazz, actually. We're gonna be wrestling in June, late June, so that's gonna be a good time too. It's gonna be pretty tough. It's gonna be pretty tough, but I would be excited to work with Jacqueline. I would be. I don't know. I'm sure she's retired and it's all the way hung up. But if she ever ventured out for like a little something, something, I mean, we could run it back. It could be something super low key.
Listen, it's pro wrestling. Like, no one's ever retired.
I was gonna say nobody's ever done.
No, you're selfishly.
I'll try to take her head off though.
Selfishly,
with so much love.
I need a 30-minute, 60-minute classic with you and Swole one day. Like just so like Big Swole. Like you talk about main events. Like I don't care if it's WrestleMania. I don't care if it's AEW. I don't care if it's Indies for the culture. I need you and Swole to just tear the house down in the main event. Give me 20, 30 minutes.
For sure. I love Swole. She's so sweet. I'm happy to have gotten to work with her. And I want to do it again too. So hopefully that happens.
Putting this into the universe. Trying to speak it into existence. And then before I let you go, one last thing, and I just want to know, because how did you come up with Lariat Tubman? I feel it's the coolest finishing name in the world, and I love it. How did this come about?
Yeah, so you know how like sometimes you play this game where like you just think of like little like words like with wrestling, you kind of just sit and you kind of spin your wheels to try to think of something cool. I got 3-6 Mafia Kick and I was like, all right, I can hang my hat on that. I feel good about that. All right, what else? Throw something else in the pot. What do we got? I knew that I wanted to keep my moveset simple. So I knew the Lariat was going to be there. But I was just thinking, what the heck? Lariat. I'm thinking like Lariat. And so my mom works at the Harriet Tubman's women's shelter, or she used to. And I was sitting there trying to connect the dots, right? And I was trying to like figure it out. And Faye Jackson actually was the one who kind of like put a little salt in it. I was like, oh, that's the recipe right there. I think it's Lariat and it's Tubman. Because we couldn't work the Lariat and some of the other supporting names were brutal. They were really bad. But Lariat Tubman was the standout. And I was like, yeah, bless up.
Shout out to Faye Jackson.
I'm going to slide her a check. I told her. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to slide her something. I got you. I love Faye. So.
Faye was amazing when she was on the show as well. I mean, we talked to several people since she announced that she's kind of hanging it up in wrestling. It was like, man, if anyone's cut out to be backstage or some type of, just producer in the back or somewhere, like Faye seems to be it. Like everyone loves Faye. So yeah, can't wait to talk to her again. We loved talking to you today. It was so great. We appreciate the honesty and the conversation. You let me know when I can challenge you for that title. I'll probably lose, but
if say I got one out.
Yeah, listen. Andreas might have to take the bump for me. He runs in, he takes the bump, small package, I win the belt. We're booking this on the fly.
No, it's so funny.
No, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Trish. Let the people know where they can find, your merch, everything you have going, and some events that are coming up.
Yes. So for me, I'm at Trish Adora 202. That's on Instagram and Twitter. I also have a Facebook athlete page, Around the Way Girl. And I also have a What a Maneuver shop. That's linked in my Twitter and Instagram bio. So feel free to cop some cool shirts. I do have heather gray and yellow. So two new colors aside from standard black. So we can add some color to your wrestling. I know it gets kind of so many black shirts. So it's nice to have something with a pop of color. So let's see, what do I got coming up? I just wrapped up filming for IWTV's The Life of. I had their camera for a couple weeks, so I was able to. There was there was a lot going on. So I think y'all will get to see me in some new ways. Some new ways. That's going to be towards the summer. I'm excited to be wrestling Jazz. I'll be wrestling Ida Surreal. I will be defending my title later on this year as well. And I have some special plans for September that I will be posting about very soon, actually. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Oh, shoot. That's okay. That's okay.
It's all right. A little teaser.
That's all right.
I'll be looking for it. Listen, I'm here for exclusives.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate it so much. Again, you are incredible. Everything that you do, we always try, both Andreas and I, to give people their flowers while they come on with us. So know that you're making a difference. You may think you're just going along in the process, and it means so much to so many people. And there's people who see you and say, hey, I can do that. Or look at someone who looks like me. And unfortunately, we don't have too many Black champions. That's still something that's very, very fresh and very new. And you handle that position with the utmost style and grace. So we appreciate it. We appreciate everything you do. Everyone, we appreciate you guys for watching another episode of Wrestling with Stereotypes. Check out everything else on adfreeshows.com, our entire catalog. Like we said, we have Fake Jackson on the show. We had Darius Lockhart, so many people on the show. Make sure you guys go back and watch those episodes. Till next time, though, we're out.
Peace.